Okay, so we are looking at two squares. They are both split into hundredths, but the amounts that are shaded in are definitely different from each other. So in this example over here, we have 3 whole rows colored in. That means that we're looking at tenths. So remember that each of these strips is a tenth, but it has to have the entire strip shaded in. So in this example, it's showing us that our decimal looks like this because 3 is in the tens place, and this is 3 whole tenths. If you need to think of it like there's a 0 after, and think of it as 30 hundredths, that is also fine because those decimals are equivalent to each other. So this is telling us that 30 little squares are shaded in, and this decimal up top is telling us that 3 whole strips are shaded in. This is the exact same decimal. They're showing the same amount as each other. This one over here is different because our 3 in the decimal is in the hundredths place. So here is our difference right there. This is telling us that there are only 300 squares shaded in. So there are 3 little squares shaded in. We do not have anything in the tens place. So kind of think of it like a placeholder. None of the whole strips are shaded in, so this has to be 0. Then we can put the 3, telling us that there are 3 hundredths. Make sure that you always put a 0 placeholder if there are no whole strips shaded in. A whole strip has to be shaded in order for something to be in this column. So since there isn't anything shaded in, we can say that there are only 3 hundredths. 1, 2, and 3. That is the difference between 3 tenths and 3 hundredths. We're going to look at this question and use our skills to now answer it. It says, what shows the equivalence to 4 tenths? When you're looking at a question like this, it's sometimes helpful to just say the decimal out loud. We know this is the tenths place, so it has to be 4 tenths. If we're looking over here, this first example is showing us 4 hundredths. This is definitely not going to be our answer because we know 4 tenths means that we have to have at least 4 whole strips that are shaded in. Over here, we have 3 tenths. We know this because 3 whole strips are shaded in, so that would be decimal 3 or 3 tenths. Letter D, we are getting closer. This is showing us a 100 square. We know that there are 40 little squares shaded in. You do not have to individually count all the squares. We know that each of these whole strips is 10. So I can just count 10, 20, 30, 40 to know that there are 40 hundredths. That could be the answer because we know that 4 tenths and 40 hundredths are equivalent to each other. Let's go to our last answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is showing us that we have 5 tenths, so we know that can't be the answer. So by showing our work for every question, making sure that we are writing it on there so we can for sure tell our correct answer, we know that 40 hundredths is equivalent to 4 tenths. I could take these strips and I have 4 of them, which would be written as decimal 4.